In December 2025, a 23-year-old woman looked into her phone and told the internet it was turning Chinese. She said it like a doctor delivering a diagnosis. Calm, amused, certain. There is no point in fighting it, she said. You are the chosen one. The video hit nearly 3 million views in a week. Within weeks, millions followed. They filmed themselves drinking hot water, eating rice porridge for breakfast, wearing slippers indoors, practicing ancient breathing exercises. They thought they discovered something new. They hadn't. They had stumbled into a prescription written 23 centuries ago. In April 2025, a joke started circulating online. 7 words. A parody of the final line from Fight Club. The original went, "You met me at a very strange time in my life." The internet version replaced one word. One internet database called it ultimately meaningless and purposefully absurd. It was an inside joke among Chinese Americans. If a friend used chopsticks, someone would say with mock seriousness, "You met me at a very Chinese time in my life." But meaningless things have a habit of finding meaning. In late 2025, a Chinese-American creator turned the joke into a format. She addressed her camera like a life coach and calmly informed her viewers that they were, whether they liked it or not, turning Chinese tomorrow. Her first video hit nearly 3 million views. Over 2 months, she posted 20 more. They averaged 1 million views each. The format spread. Hundreds of creators made their own versions. Hashtags multiplied. By February 2026, more than 30 major global publications had covered the trend. It had its own Wikipedia page. A Hollywood comedian joined in, singing a classic Taiwanese love song in a Tang dynasty-inspired jacket. The internet had decided Chinese was cool, but it hadn't asked why. Something deeper was shifting. The Chicago Council on Global Affairs annual survey found 53% of Americans now favored cooperation with China, up from 40% in just 1 year. A 13-point jump. The Pew Research Center found the pattern underneath. In 16 out of 17 countries, adults under 34 viewed China significantly more favorably than those over 50. This wasn't random. Something generational was happening. And then came the moment that cracked the wall. In January 2025, a federal ban on TikTok forced millions of American users to look for alternatives. They chose a Chinese app. Downloads hit #1 overnight. For the first time, millions of young Americans peered into China's internet and saw ordinary people, ordinary cities, ordinary meals. None of it matching the picture they'd been given. So when the becoming Chinese trend exploded, the ground was ready. But here's the question no one asked. Every single habit that went viral, the hot water, the kanji, the slippers, the Qigong, can be traced to a specific moment in Chinese history. Not decades, not centuries, millennia. And the story begins with a book that has no confirmed author, no exact birthday, and no ending. 2,300 years ago, during China's Warring States period, when 7 kingdoms were tearing each other apart in wars that would eventually forge the first unified empire, a group of scholars compiled a medical text. It was called the Huangdi Neijing, the Yellow Emperor's Inner Canon. Framed as a dialogue between a mythical emperor and his physician, it would become the single most foundational text in traditional Chinese medicine, a status it holds to this day. UNESCO inscribed it as a memory of the world in 2011. At its core was a radical idea. The body was not a machine to fix when broken. It was a landscape, an ecology of opposing forces. Yin and yang, cold and heat, stillness and motion, that had to be kept in balance. And the simplest tool for maintaining that balance? Warm water. The text prescribed it to activate what it called yang energy, the body's internal warmth, its engine of circulation. Cold water was believed to shock the system and invite dampness, a sluggish internal climate linked to fatigue and weakened immunity. This was not folk wisdom. It was a systematic framework, refined across 23 centuries. The tradition of drinking hot water dates to the Zhou dynasty, around 400 BCE. By the Han dynasty, it was part of formal medical classification. And in the 1930s, China's Republican government elevated it to national policy. Printed on hygiene posters, taught in schools, broadcast on radio. A 2,300-year-old theory had been conscripted into a 20th century public health campaign. So when someone in 2026 films themselves drinking warm water and calls it a trend, they are standing at the end of a chain that stretches from the Warring States period, through 2 millennia of medical practice, through a political campaign, and into their kitchen. They're following a prescription. They just don't know who wrote it. Around 1,000 years before the Common Era, while the Greeks were in their Dark Age and Rome was a cluster of huts on a hill, Chinese kitchens were already producing one of the oldest continuously consumed recipes in human history. Congee. A rice porridge so simple it seems too obvious to have a story. But it does, and it's 3,000 years long. Even the English name is a time capsule. Congee doesn't come from Chinese. It comes from Tamil. Kanji, meaning boilings. Portuguese colonizers in 16th century Goa adopted it as kanjé. English speakers anglicized it into congee. A Chinese dish, a Tamil name, a Portuguese middleman, a single word carrying the fingerprints of 3 civilizations. In China, congee was never just food. From the Han Dynasty, it was classified as medicine. Different ingredients, different prescriptions. Red date congee for the blood, yam congee for the spleen, mung bean congee to clear heat. 3,000 years. Same bowl, same steam, same logic. Food is medicine, and medicine begins with the simplest things. Of all the becoming Chinese habits, this seems the most trivial. Wearing slippers indoors. To Western eyes, just a preference. In Chinese culture, it's a medical decision. Traditional Chinese medicine considers the sole of the foot a convergence point for the body's energy channels. The central point is called Yongquan, gushing spring. The principle is 4 characters. Cold enters through the feet. Barefoot on cold surfaces depletes the body's warmth. The slipper isn't a comfort item. It's a seal between internal warmth and external cold. This tradition traces to the Tang dynasty, 1400 years ago. 1400 years of thermal philosophy, compressed into a morning routine. The timeline just took a very long step backward. 2146 BCE. According to the Encyclopaedia Britannica, that is the approximate origin of Qigong's roots in Taoist tradition. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built around 2560 BCE. Qigong is older. Its roots are tangled with shamanic ritual, Taoist meditation, and the earliest attempts to understand what Chinese philosophy calls qi, vital breath, life energy. The Tao Te Ching provided the framework. The universe operates through yielding and asserting, emptying and filling. The body is a microcosm of that universe. Qigong, breathwork, was the technology developed to regulate this energy. From it evolved Tai Chi, the grand supreme fist. Legend says a Taoist immortal created it on Wudang Mountain. It began as a fighting system built on the paradox that softness defeats hardness. Over centuries, it shifted from combat to cultivation, from the battlefield to the park. 4,000 years, same breath, same motion, a practice older than the alphabet. The last thread is the oldest global commodity in human history. Unlike the others, tea didn't stay home. It left China and changed the world. Literally, tea culture emerged in the Tang dynasty. It peaked during the Song. The same dynasty, another viral video recently compared to Gen Z. The Song dynasty turned tea into high art. Song dynasty tea houses were likely humanity's first third spaces, public places that were neither home nor workplace. The concept a certain Seattle coffee chain would claim to invent was running in Chinese cities 1,000 years earlier. And the Song didn't just drink tea. They competed. Docha, the tea contest, had judges evaluating the color and foam pattern of whisked tea. A 12th century latte art competition. A way of proving sophistication through a beverage. Sound familiar? Chinese tea traveled the Silk Road. It crossed the sea to Japan, where the Song dynasty's method became the Japanese tea ceremony, which the world now considers quintessentially Japanese. It was, in origin, quintessentially Chinese. The East India Company brought it to England, creating afternoon tea. And when Britain's insatiable demand created a trade deficit, the empire's solution was flooding China with opium. The result? The Opium Wars. A wound China still calls its century of humiliation. A leaf, a cup, a war, an empire's wound. So when someone brews herbal tea and tags it becoming Chinese, they're reaching into a current that runs from Tang dynasty poetry to colonial trade wars. They think they're making tea. They're touching a nerve 4,000 years deep. But this story has a wound in it, and you can't tell it honestly without opening it. In 2020, Chinese Americans became targets, not of curiosity, of violence. The same habits that the internet would celebrate 6 years later. The hot water, the soups, the traditional remedies were at that moment punchlines, evidence of otherness. The same culture, the same practices, a completely different frame. 6 years. That's all it took. And for the people who lived through both, that gap isn't 6 years. It's a chasm. Some Chinese Americans described the tension, gratitude that their culture was finally being seen, paired with fear it was being consumed as entertainment, to be discarded like every other viral cycle. Others took a different view. Visibility, even imperfect, was better than invisibility. One widely shared sentiment, paraphrased from multiple sources, put it this way: I hope this leads to a world where culture doesn't need to be locked away, to be protected, where it can simply be appreciated. And if the next generation doesn't feel the need to shrink themselves, then this moment matters. Here is what the memes don't say, what the headlines miss, what no 15-second video has space for. Every practice that went viral, the hot water, the kanji, the slippers, the Qigong, the tea, each one is a thread in a philosophical system, refined for over 2,000 years, built on one astonishingly simple idea. Prevention is superior to cure. Don't wait for the body to break. Maintain it daily with the simplest tools: warm water, simple food, covered feet, conscious breathing, a cup of tea. Not mystical, not exotic. Arguably the most practical wellness philosophy ever devised. And for 23 centuries, over 1 billion people have lived by it. The trend will fade. Trends always do. But the next time you reach for a glass of water, and you have the choice between cold and warm, you might pause, just for a second. And in that second, 23 centuries of wisdom will be standing behind you, waiting patiently, the way it always has. Asking nothing, offering everything.